Is this the dagger?
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the On the Ball podcast on the Right Wing Sports Network. I'm your host, Free Ramen, joined by my co-host, Will Walker. Guys, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, man. As always, doing awesome. Can't wait. We have an official date for basketball coming back next month, which is pretty unbelievable. So I'm ready to talk about that and a lot of other stuff.
And with that being said, just like Will said, we do have hoops coming back. That's probably the best news we've had in this busy week. We have hoops coming back in about it's actually quicker than expected. About a month and a half away, we have hoops coming back. The NBA regular season will start after the players and the team and the owners voted on a 72-game season starting on December 22nd. And then after the 72 games, they will go into the playoffs. Guys, what are you guys expecting? What are your guys' expectations for this upcoming season? Like, what teams will start off hot? What teams will start off a little bit cold? What Christmas Day matchups do you guys want to see? Will, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, so I mean, NBA starting December 22nd. As a fan, I absolutely love it because it's just basketball is coming back in 2020, which I really didn't think that was going to happen. I thought it was going to be in January, like MLK weekend, or February even. But no, it's coming back this year, which is pretty crazy to think about. And for the NBA, it makes sense too, just because financials wise, money wise, they do need to, get some of the money back that they obviously, COVID took a massive hit for every sports league, but especially the NBA, just because it cut the middle of the season. And obviously they still haven't been able to get those ticket revenue back, but you can still get some in terms of advertising and obviously merchandise, and obviously starting the season a little bit on the earlier side will help that. So it makes sense on that end. I would say my only concern is really logistically. I'm not the biggest fan just in terms of one or really a couple areas. 1 month in between free agency and the draft is really short. That is a very quick turnaround for not only players who are signing with new teams, but also guys like the rookies as well who are going to be drafted to teams. I mean, there's literally 1 month from I believe the draft November 18th, free agencies in late November, Thanksgiving time. And, on a normal schedule, free agency there's about a 3-month gap between when free agents sign and when the season actually starts. And then draft wise, it's like a 4-month gap. So there's plenty of adjustment period to the new teams and the new coaching staffs. But there's going to be a lot quicker turnaround. So I'm actually expecting a slower start, especially from rookies like LaMelo Ball or even Denny. I'm just expecting them to get off a little bit to a slow start. But I overall, in terms of opening day matchups, obviously the Lakers are probably going to be in a high matchup against maybe the Clippers, maybe the Warriors. We'll see. I would like to see. I think the Lakers are a team that could get out to a slower start, just because. I mean, LeBron even said it. LeBron literally had a quote where he's like, I might be cherry picking with Anthony Davis for the first half of the season. So I mean, the Lakers might be cruising a little bit. I expect them to get in high gear. LeBron's teams usually have a tendency to, in some regular season matchups, just kind of take it off and then they magically flip a switch anyways. So I could expect that to happen. I think the Warriors and the Nets are teams that, man, they have been waiting. They have been waiting for their opportunity to shine. The Warriors were the worst record in the league, and everyone was like, oh, the Warriors went from going to the finals 5 times to the worst record in the league. Ha, ha, ha. Well, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, they are back. They are healthy, and they are motivated. So I'm expecting them to get out a very quick start, as well as Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and the Nets. And something I didn't mention is also coaching. There's a lot of new coaching staffs as well, so I'm interested to see how quick that turnaround will be, since obviously there's about a month or 2 months in between the coaching staffs being formalized and the season starting. So it's going to be really interesting to see who gets off to a slow start and who gets off to a quicker start. There's 72 games as well, which means there's 10 less games. So I'm expecting it to be, you can't get off to a too bad start for too many games. So it's going to be really interesting to see, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything Will said. Some teams that I think are going to get off to hot starts. One, my Atlanta Hawks. I was high on them on the last episode, and I think that they weren't in the
Hold
bubble.
on, your Atlanta Hawks? I thought you were a Thunder fan, my guy.
No, I am a Thunder fan, but I'm pretty high on the Atlanta Hawks coming into this season. They're like my big sleeper team for this year. I think they're gonna come in and they're gonna go on a winning streak. They're gonna have a good record. They'll probably cool off towards later in the year, but I think to start the year they're gonna be fresh. They're gonna be ready to go. They're gonna have a good team around them. They're gonna have good depth. Trae Young's finally gonna get to show what he can do on a winning basketball team, and I think he's going to earn a lot more respect from NBA fans. So I think they're going to be good. I think obviously the Warriors, they're going to get off to a hot start. The Heat and Lakers, just because it's such a short period from the NBA Finals to the NBA season. I also really agree with what Will said, and I wanted to bring this up, but I do think rookies are going to struggle early. They don't have much time to develop. I mean, training camp starts December 1st. That's 3 weeks. 3 weeks is all they get to learn their team's playbook, learn their team's offense, get chemistry with the guys. I think that
they haven't even been drafted yet. By now, they would have been drafted for a couple months.
Right, exactly. And we may see some. I mean, I don't know necessarily because we said this about the bubble and everyone came out looking fresh. But we could see some potentially sloppy basketball, at least from the playoff teams to start off. But I'm excited. I really didn't think this was going to happen. But, I mean, I'm certainly not complaining.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I did not see this happening. December 22nd was like the best case scenario, and it was like a dream idea. I'm so surprised that they got to an agreement this quickly. All the players agreed to it as well. And I do think the Lakers and the teams like the Lakers and the Heat, teams that had deep playoffs runs, even the Nuggets to an extent, will start off a little bit slow because of the wear and tear. I mean, this is probably the shortest offseason in NBA history. So I think those teams will start off a little bit slow. LeBron even said for the first half of the season he's going to be cherry picking. But I think teams like the Warriors are going to start off hot. I'm not sure about the Nets because, like Will said, there's so many coaching staffs that are brand new in this new season, and the Nets are one of them. They completely redid their entire coaching staff, like we talked about last show. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Nets are going to look like. KD's coming back off an Achilles injury. We're going to see if he is anywhere near the same player or if he's taken a significant step back. All of that is up in the air with the Nets. So I don't really see them starting as hot as most think. But in terms of the fan perspective, some dream Christmas Day matchups of mine. I would love to see the Lakers and the Clippers, the Lakers ring night being on Christmas Day at home, and they play the Clippers. That's just rubbing it in. That's just rubbing it in. The 17th ring at Staples. I know there probably won't be fans at the Staples Center to celebrate with them, but it's still going to hurt seeing the banner go up in the Staples Center, watching the Clippers players just watch the banners come down, and then just that feeling of agony. But that's going to be hilarious. And it's also going to be a great matchup. The Battle of LA, the Western Conference Finals, we all wanted. So I think that'll be a great Christmas Day matchup. I know everyone wants to see Curry versus KD, Nets versus Warriors on Christmas as well. I think that would be an excellent matchup. And then another matchup that comes to mind immediately. I know there's a couple other matchups, but Luka Doncic versus Zion Williamson, the future faces of the league, both like 20 years old, 21 years old, going at it. The Pelicans will be fully healthy again. And then you have the Dallas Mavericks. Kristaps Porzingis might miss the first 3 weeks of the season, so that's all up in the air because he did tear his meniscus in the playoffs. But that's a matchup I'm really excited to see as well. So those are my 3 dream matchups for Christmas Day. There are others which I wish for, but those are the ones I want the most. And so, yeah, I'm honestly looking really forward to this. I did not expect it to come back this soon. My birthday is 2 days before that. We get Christmas Day. We get Christmas Day a couple days after that. So it's just multiple gifts piling up.
Yeah, I know, I understand Mavericks Pelicans would be a great matchup, but I would certainly not complain if that happened. But I want to see Mavericks Hawks. I want to see Luka Doncic, Trae Young going at it. going to be a battle. That would be one matchup that I would really want to see.
Thomas loves his Hawks.
You love your Hawks, but would you really want to see? I get you love Trae Young, but would you rather watch Trae Young than Zion? That's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
Yeah, there is the storyline of them, wearing the draft hats of the other team, which is still like just a very unsettling image to look at when, seeing Trae Young in a Mavericks hat and Luka Doncic in a Hawks hat.
Thomas. Here's the thing: the Hawks may be a better team than the Pelicans. I certainly disagree, but the Hawks may be a better team than the Pelicans. However, which game is going to bring more excitement? Which game is going to bring more box office appeal? It's the one with Zion Williamson.
I mean, I guess from a box office perspective, yeah, it's going to be Zion. I mean, the dude's probably one of the most popular athletes in the entire world, really. But just, I don't know. I want to see Luka and Trae go at it because we're gonna be seeing that a couple times.
Either one works for me.
That would be a fun matchup. I would not be opposed to that. It just in my Christmas wish list. Let's say it's my Christmas wish list. I want Pelicans Mavs. But in terms of my wish list aside, I think that's pretty much gonna cover it up for the start of the season. There's gonna be some teams that start off hotter than others. I think Will did mention that guys, or Will or Thomas, I forgot which one, did mention that rookies are going to struggle, and I agree 100%. Just like the NFL season, how they didn't have a training camp or a preseason. The rookies are going to struggle. They're not even drafted yet. They don't even know what team they're on yet. That's coming in 16 days, and then a month after, they have to step on the court for the first time. They don't get a summer league. They don't get any of that. I think guys like Denny, Killian Hayes, not LaMelo Ball because he was injured, but those guys get a slight advantage because international ball was played longer than college ball, and they're not as rusty as some of these collegiate athletes. So I think that really benefits them moving forward into their rookie seasons, and they'll probably be better off than some of these collegiate players, especially guys like James Wiseman, who hasn't played a game in almost a year and a half. So,
yeah, I completely agree. I think what we're gonna see this early is that the players that are NBA ready are gonna be the most valuable ones. Guys like, Aaron Nesmith, Devin Vassell, two guys that can shoot the three, can play excellent defense. Those guys are gonna come in. They're gonna be able to make a big factor right away. I see what you're saying about James Wiseman, but at the same time, like, his role, he's not going to be put in a role right away where he's going to have to do too much. He's just going to kind of be used as a rim protector, as a lob threat, as a rim runner. I don't think
you think he's headed to Golden State if his role is minimalized?
See, I don't think Golden State's going to draft him, and I don't think they should. I don't think they should draft him, and I don't think they will. I think that the Warriors understand. The Warriors, more than anyone, understand the direction of where basketball is going. It's favoring guards. It's favoring wings. It's favoring three-point shooting. And then if you're looking past the Steph Curry and the Klay Thompson era, would you rather build around a wing? Would you rather build around a guard? Or would you rather build around a center who can't shoot, can't read the floor, can't make quick decisions, can't play make? Like, I just don't know I think the Warriors are incredibly smart.
Here's the thing. I do not think that the Warriors are looking forward to the future. I think they're trying to win right now in the Steph Curry, Klay Thompson era because they're not going to have a chance better than this in a long time.
I think that it's going to be a mix of both, but I think you could get someone like a Denny Avdija who's going to be able to come in and make an impact right away. Or, you could trade down for one of the NBA-ready wing players. I think there's a lot of options that the Warriors could do. And to be honest, James Wiseman is one of my least favorite ones, at least from a perspective of, like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense looking towards the future.
Yeah. And to just interject with a quick point here, I think Denny Avdija is a player who can, like you said, he can make an instant impact, but he can also do both. He's going to help them. It adds another piece to their team, whether he's off the bench, maybe he starts eventually. when the playoff come around. It depends. But he can also help you build for the future as well. So it really does both to me. So that's the perfect pick.
And he's probably the most pro ready in the entire class because he's played the latest. But we're gonna move on. We are gonna stick with the draft, which we just ended on, and we're gonna get to LaMelo Ball. Now, LaMelo Ball is the projected number one pick in this 2020 draft to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, there's been a lot of stories surrounding LaMelo Ball recently that he's been absolutely terrible in his draft interviews. There's been questions about his work ethic coming into question, whether or not he can really make an immediate impact on the NBA level, how his game's going to translate. So there's just a lot of question marks around LaMelo Ball. And I'm going to start off with Thomas on this one. Do you think his stock has stayed the same, risen, even though it's probably at a number one level right now? Or do you think it's fallen among the way NBA GMs are viewing it?
In terms of stock, it's definitely dropped. I don't see how you can argue otherwise. Some GMs are in the perspective of, you know what, this is a very risky draft, and some teams, I like the way Kevin O'Connor put it. Like some teams, they aren't going to swing for the fences for a home run. Maybe they're just fine, hitting a single, hitting a double. Maybe they do. There's going to be a lot of teams that don't want to draft a LaMelo Ball because of the fear factor, because of the high bust potential he possesses. Now, I love LaMelo Ball. I don't think he's going to be a bust whatsoever. I think he's going to be a star in the NBA, but there's definitely a chance that he does not pan out. But in terms of his draft stock, some people have been saying he's going to fall past the top 5. I think that's ridiculous. First of all, even if he were to go past the top 3, right? Okay, the Pistons and the Knicks are going to be spamming the Bulls GM, spamming the Cavs GM with calls, messages to trade up in the draft. Because LaMelo Ball, I don't even think he's going to fall outside the top 3. I think
I don't think he's going to fall out of the top 1. I think he's the number 1 pick.
I think he's worthy of the number 1 pick. I just don't know if the Timberwolves would actually do that, even though I think that would be the best fit for them. That's true. But if he doesn't, let's say Anthony Edwards goes number 1 in the Timberwolves, like the Pistons, they're going to be calling the Warriors. They're going to be saying, hey, we're going to offer let's say, let me just throw an offer out there, Luke Kennard, Thon Maker in the 7th overall pick. That's a decent package to move up 5 spots, and they're gonna want a LaMelo Ball. The New York Knicks, they definitely want LaMelo Ball. I just don't see a way. His draft stock has definitely declined. There is absolutely no denying that. But I still don't think there's any way he falls outside of the top 5. Heck, I don't even think he'll fall outside of the top 3.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I would just add, I think the talent and the upside is too much to deny, and it's just too much to pass up, especially inside the top 3. I think his stock has fallen a little bit because the interviews and stuff, and maybe motivation and questions about work ethic, I suppose is it's relevant, but I still think the talent is just too much it just overcomes any other weaknesses when it comes to like that off the court kind of stuff. And I still think he's the best player in the class to me, and he has the most upside in the class. And to me, his personality is such a wild card kind of personality, and he just seems like a go with the flow kind of player. Very streaky kind of guy. What's up?
LeVar's son.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Yeah, he is LeVar Ball's son. So he's a very wild card kind of personality. So it makes sense maybe that he wouldn't connect with some GMs or whoever does or player scouts, whoever's doing those interviews. I would just add, because like I said earlier, because there's one month, between when LaMelo Ball is going to get drafted and when, he's actually going to start playing for an NBA team. Don't panic if he's just starting out terrible. I mean, Lonzo Ball didn't start out great at all. I mean, he had a pretty trash rookie season, and he's developed pretty nicely so far. He's rounding out his game pretty well. So I'm expecting LaMelo Ball to be one of those rookies that could possibly be pretty bad to start off, but he'll get things going. And so I still think you should draft him inside the top 3. He's just too talented to pass up.
And just a quick thing as well, like in terms of like the interview stuff and the workout things, one, people expect him to be like LeVar Ball. They expect him to be this big, talkative, outspoken kind of guy. But the reality is Lonzo Ball and LaMelo Ball and LeVar Ball, they're completely different from their father. I mean, at least Lonzo Ball, like when I was watching, he's just a chill guy. Like he's not outspoken. He's humble. He's quiet. And I think the same things with LaMelo Ball. I think he's a little immature for sure, but he's like what 18 years old. I don't expect him to be this, have this incredible mindset at the moment. In terms of his work ethic, I mean, people can look at the workouts, but I definitely think LaMelo Ball is more of a 5-on-5 guy rather than a 1-on-1 because his best skill is playmaking. And if you're going to put him in an open gym and tell him, hey, shoot a bunch of threes, yeah, he's going to struggle because he's not a great 3-point shooter at the moment. He's not a great shot maker at the moment, but he is a great playmaker. He is great at running an offense, but how are you going to be able to see that in a 1-on-1 situation? The answer is you're not. So that's why I think, he's struggling in workouts because he's not a 1v1 type of player at the moment. He's a guy that you're going to have to put in 5-on-5 to see his true effect.
Yeah, with LaMelo Ball, I think his stock is pretty much the same. I know he's pretty much flunked the interviews so far, but I don't see him either not being picked number 1 or not being picked number 3. If anything, the Wolves, if they don't take him, they're probably going to take Anthony Edwards. Like, we're not the highest on Anthony Edwards. That's not like our top guy, but that's probably their top guy. So they'd probably take Anthony Edwards, but I don't see him falling past Charlotte, quite frankly. Or if Charlotte wants to trade back, I don't see him falling past that number 3 spot. He's too talented. He's too special of a talent to go past that number 3 spot. A team will take him top 3. So I don't really see his stock falling too much. But in terms of LaMelo Ball's personality, the cocky flair LaMelo Ball brings to a franchise, that's what everyone loves about him. This kid is just energetic. That's what everyone wants in a franchise player. They want someone who can electrify the crowd, that make the fan base interested in basketball again. Like the Minnesota Timberwolves, they have Karl Anthony Towns, but let's be real here. How much is Karl Anthony Towns energizing that franchise? Sure, he's something to go brag home about, but is he really bringing that value of a LaMelo Ball, that stock market value of a LaMelo Ball? When I talk about the stock, the NBA stock, the value of a LaMelo Ball, does Karl Anthony Towns really bring that? I don't think so. I think LaMelo Ball's personality combined with his unique play style and his just on-court swagger is what makes him such a lovable player. And I don't think that makes his stock fall by any means.
Yeah, and I think that kind of personality might just be not greatly suited for interviews, but when you actually draft him, you're going to see the value of having a guy like that.
Yeah, 100% agree. So we're going to stick with the draft once again, and we are going to talk about our most overrated prospects in the 2020 NBA draft. So this draft is a very special draft because it's not very top loaded, but it has a lot of depth pieces in it. A second round player might just end up being better than a lottery pick. That's what this draft is shaping up to look like. So, with that being said, guys, what player do you find as the most overrated player by either mainstream media, by a lot of fan bases, yet you don't really see what's so special about their game? Will, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Yeah, so my player is going to be RJ Hampton. And I mean, of course, he's a draftable player. I'm not saying he's not a draftable player, but I don't see him as a lottery pick at all. I don't see him on the level of like Kira Lewis or Tyrell Terry, which are guys that are actually behind him in some mainstream media eyes, which is kind of ridiculous. I don't even really see him on the same level as a Tyrese Maxey. And to me, it's really just the balance of what his strengths and his weaknesses are. His strengths are basically his finishing ability, his athleticism, his handle, which is cool. And I mean, those are good strengths to have, but those are like his main strengths. And he also does have some potential to shoot the ball as well. But his weaknesses are just there. I mean, he's a bad defender. He doesn't really have that many tools to be a really great defender, and his effort is pretty piss poor as well. And he's really not a willing passer or playmaker by any stretch at all. And then in terms of his scoring, overall shot creating ability, I mean, he can get very just hard-nosed and very aggressive to a fault at some points, kind of like a Russell Westbrook. And obviously not to that level. He doesn't bring the same energy as a Russell Westbrook, but he can just be a little too aggressive and driving the basketball sometimes. And I think he forces too many bad shots that he really can't make. Sometimes it's not a huge issue with like a LaMelo Ball or an Anthony Edwards if they are forcing bad shots that they can, at least they can make those shots. It's obviously not going to be at a high percentage, but at least they have the capability of making those. And to me, RJ Hampton really does not have the capability to make some of the shots that he puts up, which are really the tough, contested fadeaway kind of shots. He just doesn't really have that yet. Maybe he'll develop it, maybe not. But to me, RJ Hampton is a guy that I don't see as a lottery pick, and some people are projecting him to be maybe a late first round. That's cool with me. But I don't really see RJ Hampton as being as special as other people pegging him to be.
Before Thomas continues, RJ Hampton, your career as a TikTok star and interacting with
I didn't
Overtime
even know that.
is wonderful. Stick
Oh, no.
to it. But that doesn't make you a top NBA prospect. No disrespect.
But the fact that he's a TikTok star just solidifies him being overrated.
Juju Smith-Schuster will. I think you have experience.
Oh, okay.
But
James Wiseman. Yeah. So in terms of my overrated prospect, it's going to be Isaac Okoro from Auburn. All right, listen. I'm going to start off nice. Okay, he's a great defensive player, one of the best perimeter defenders in this draft. He's got great physical attributes, but that's about it. That's quite literally it. He's a terrible shooter, absolutely terrible. He was hesitant to shoot because of how bad he was. Teams in college were already starting to back off of him because they're like, hey, please let it fly because you stink at shooting. Lack of touch, 68% from the foul line. I just don't see him ever becoming a good shooter. He is non-existent off the dribble. He doesn't have a great handle. Even when he got a lot of his points off of layups. Now, granted, he's a solid slasher, but I just don't see anything special. His offense is terrible. It's awful. You can make layups and you're athletic. That's really, really awesome. I'm so happy for you. But you can't shoot. You can't score. You can't create off the dribble. You can't make plays for others. I don't know what? Where's the hype? And people are like, oh, well, look at Jimmy Butler. Look at Kawhi Leonard. Look how those turned out. Yeah, okay. Those are two great examples. All right. But for the Jimmy Butlers and the Kawhi Leonards, there's always the Stanley Johnsons, the Josh Jacksons. Those types of players, the athletic.
As a KU fan, don't remind me of Josh Jackson now. Don't remind me. Don't do that to me.
Remember when people said Josh Jackson was better than Jason Tatum? Because I remember those people. That existed before the draft.
People infuriate me.
Please tell me how you can look at Isaac Okoro and say, hey, this guy's a top 10 prospect. This guy who can't shoot, score, or do anything offensively outside of make layups is a top 10 prospect. His defense is great. That's cool. Props to you. But if you can't do anything offensively at all whatsoever, I don't want you. You're a bust. Sorry.
Honestly, the one team that I could see doing pretty good things with Isaac Okoro is the Spurs.
Yes.
The only lotteries. If he went to the Spurs, they'd probably develop him into a solid player.
Yes. He better break to go to the Spurs because if he does not go to the Spurs, he's going to be out of the league in 5 seasons.
So I think you guys already know what my answer is going to be. I am going to go with the second TikTok star from this NBA draft class, the one, the only, my good buddy, Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony has come up clutch multiple times. His most clutch block was recently he blocked Thomas, but he's also blocked me. So blocked by Anthony before he even stepped into the league. But in terms of him as a basketball player, let's just take it one by one. Cole Anthony is not a good defender. He's a horrendous defender. Just take that out of – he's just an atrocious defender. He can't defend. He can't stay in front of his man. He can't steal a ball. He's useless on the defensive end. What does he provide? Absolutely nothing. Okay? So defense is just a wash. I know Trae Young is bad at defense. Cole Anthony, pick it up because you might reach that level one day. Now, in terms of his offense, average playmaker. Average, probably below average. He's not great at creating for his teammates whatsoever. Like, he might be average at best, but he's not great. And he's a point guard. There's two things you want out of a point guard: the ability to create for yourself and others, and to score. And the second one being scoring. Yeah, he scored 20 points per game in college. I know the injury excuse is about to come from a lot of Cole Anthony fans, but in terms of Cole Anthony in college, guys, I want you to do a little bit of math. The average true shooting percentage in the NBA this season was 56.5%. Cole Anthony would have shot 6% below league average. That's just atrocious. That is atrocious. His field goal percentage, for reference, I know that's not the best stat, but it was under 40%. He also wasn't a great three-point shooter either, 34%. And this is a guy's game who's mainly predicated on scoring. The guy's game is mainly predicated on scoring, and so that leaves me under what good is he as an NBA prospect? So Cole Anthony, I'm sorry. You can also enjoy your career as the next TikTok star. I saw your Chipotle ad you posted the other day. Massive props to you. I love Chipotle, but I'm sorry. You are my most overrated prospect. So that's that. We're gonna move on from that topic, and we are gonna rank our top. We're starting a new series on the On the Ball podcast, which is ranking our top 25 players. And basically, right now we're gonna start from 25 to 20. We're only giving away 5 for you today. Sorry, we can't give you the whole spill, but we're giving you 25 through 20 today. I'm gonna start off with Thomas on this one. Who are your number 25 through number 20 players?
All right, this is extremely difficult. But all right, at 25, and this might get some people mad after what he did in the playoffs, but I'm gonna go with Donovan Mitchell. He's a great offensive player. Do not get me wrong. He's a tremendous scorer, and in the playoffs, I mean, the dude was just unstoppable. He was just unstoppable, putting up like 37 a game on like 70 true shooting percentage, which is absolutely ridiculous. He was on fire in the playoffs, and there's no denying it. Great scorer and shooter. The reason why Donovan Mitchell is so low for me is because I simply think there are other guys who can contribute more to a basketball game. I think there are guys that are better playmakers. Donovan Mitchell is just a score-first guy who had an extremely high usage rate and had 4 assists per game, and is a noticeable negative on defense. Like, one of the people act like, oh, well, he has athleticism, he must be good at defense. No, that's not the case at all. He's actually a horrible defender. So yeah, Donovan Mitchell ranks at 25. At 24, I've got Devin Booker. Again, just a great scorer. The difference between Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell is that, one, Devin Booker is the more efficient scorer, and Devin Booker is also a really underrated playmaker. I believe he averaged around 7 assists per game this year, which isn't bad at all, especially when you consider that his point guard, Ricky Rubio, was, I believe, 3rd in assists. So yeah, I have Devin Booker slightly ahead of Donovan Mitchell, and I've got Jrue Holiday ahead of them both. Look, Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell are better scorers, better shooters than Jrue Holiday. But Jrue Holiday is a better playmaker. He's more impactful, and it's not even close on defense. He's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. Those guys are 2 of the worst. So I will take a guy who can contribute on both ends of the court over guys who can contribute on one for the most part. At 22, I've got Klay Thompson. This was a tough one to rank. Some people think I might be lowballing him a bit, but I think that Klay Thompson gets a bit overrated by the average NBA fan. Don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic shooter. He's a great off-ball player. He's a great defender as well. But I just think there are other guys who can, like I said, contribute more to a basketball game. I think he benefits from playing off of Steph Curry, one of the best perimeter scorers ever, one of the most high-gravity players ever. At 21, I've got my guy Trae Young. Look, you can talk about his defense all you want. This is a guy that was top 5 in both points per game and assists per game and carried an absolute atrocity of a Hawks roster. I know they had a trash record, but I don't put any of that on Trae Young. Once you see a supporting cast around him, you're going to see just how good he is. And then at 20, I've got Mr. Playoff P. I'm not proud of ranking him. I almost left him out, but the only reason I really have Paul George in the top 20 is because of his defense, really. I think he's a good offensive player. after these playoffs, I don't see how you can say he's a great one. He's a good scorer. He's a good 3-point shooter, but he's not the most efficient player ever. He's not a great playmaker. And like I said, he's only 20th for me because in the regular season, his production is still really good. And he's a really good perimeter defender. He's one of the better perimeter defenders in the league. But yeah, playoff he's only 20 for me.
Okay.
So who are your snubs? Who are your noticeable snubs out of your top 25?
Ooh, my notable snubs, probably Ben Simmons. I would say that's probably the big one, the most notable one. Chris Middleton, I would say he's one of my more. Oh, and Russell Westbrook, of course. How could I forget?
That's the answer I was looking for.
But yeah, those are my most notable snubs.
All right, so I'll give mine 25 through 20. A lot of the some of the similar players, but I also have a few new ones. 25, I also have Donovan Mitchell. And he pretty much covered it. I mean, his playoff run was incredible. But when I'm doing a top 25 and when I'm ranking players, it's really a combination of production, what they did in the playoffs, and obviously that holds a lot of value when it comes to Donovan Mitchell. But to me, you also have to consider just their skill set, overall skill set, offensively and defensively. Defensively, not that much to, get to the table when it comes to defense, but offensively, he's obviously a terrific player. And his playoff run, he definitely solidified a top 25 spot with, what he was doing in the playoffs, just historic numbers and historic production for, the one series that he was in. 24, I have Bam Adebayo. He actually makes my top 25. And I think, a lot of it is due to, his overall skill set. We mentioned that he was my number 4 center, last week, and he did crack my top 25. His overall skill set, the fact that he's probably the second best passing big in the league behind Jokic, obviously, and how versatile and just what a quality defender he is, while also being, in the playoffs, he was the best player in the Eastern Conference Finals, no doubt, on either side. He outplayed Jason Tatum or Jimmy Butler, who are two guys that I have above Bam Adebayo, but Bam Adebayo was better than both of them in that series, which led the Miami Heat to the finals. And so, I mean, is he the most, I would rank Jimmy Butler ahead of him, but there are times when Bam Adebayo's impact is definitely greater than Jimmy Butler's. And so Bam Adebayo, he did crack my top 25. 23, I have Trae Young. Offensively, I mean, he's probably going to rise. He's probably going to be easily inside the top 20 after this season. It's hard to fault him for the winning and the fact that he hasn't won anything, but it's also, sometimes I just can't put him over some other guys just because I haven't seen you win games. So it's still a little yet to be determined. So it's not really faulting him. It's really just giving credit to the other guys when it comes to the winning factor. But offensively, I mean, he's one of the best playmakers. His combination of playmaking and scoring is one of the best in the league already, which is incredible. The fact that he's in his second season. I mean, he almost averaged 30 and 10 in his second year. That is simply amazing, especially, for his size as well. People were saying he wouldn't translate to the league. That was ridiculous and crazy before the draft. So yeah, he's my number 23. 22, I actually do have Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons it is tough to rank him just because he got injured. So, you didn't really get to see him in the playoffs, and you didn't get to see the impact that he could have had on the Sixers, maybe change, possibly, win the Sixers a couple more games in the playoffs. Well, they didn't win any games, so maybe he'd help them win a couple games. But to me, I mean, defensively is really his biggest value. The fact that might be the most versatile defender in the league. I mean, you throw out guys who can guard 1 through 5 a lot, which, but truth be told, there's really not that many guys who can straight up guard 1 through 5. But if there is one guy, it would probably be Ben Simmons. I mean, he can guard guards, but he can also guard most bigs in the league as well, which is obviously incredible value. And then offensively, he's still an excellent playmaker. Scoring wise, obviously, we know he can't shoot at all, but he can still get you close to 20 points. I mean, I believe he averages 17, 18 points per game. So he still can score the basketball. And, obviously he can't shoot, but he basically does everything else on the court very, very well. So that's my number 22. 21, Devin Booker. I do think there's a little bit of a gap between Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker. Thoughts on Devin Booker? I mean, just obviously his value as a scorer, and especially being at the age that he's at right now. I mean, he still has a lot of room, I feel like, to grow into even being an even better scorer, which is incredible. But obviously he's improved his playmaking. Obviously defensively, there's pretty lackluster, not that much to offer. But he's not a complete liability like Trae Young. That's one of the main reasons I have him above Trae Young. And then also just leading his team to an 8-0 bubble record. I think that was really impressive. I mean, you could just say, hey, it was only 8 games, but no other team was able to do that. And he was the leader of that team as well. And, he was a young guy, and he's still, 24 years old, and he was able to lead his team to an 8-0 bubble record. Very impressive. So to me, he's number 21. And my number 20 is Karl-Anthony Towns. Like we met, he's my third best center last podcast, offensive juggernaut. And he cracks the top 20. I mean, I've already kind of given my thoughts on Karl-Anthony Towns, just offensively, one of the best players in the league when it comes to his impact offensively. Defensively, it's obviously not there, and that's why he's not firmly inside the top 20 or really even close to the top 15.
So this is extremely, extremely tough and this just makes me realize that the gap between James Harden and every other shooting guard is like a Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Mostly the top 30 through 20 players are mainly the shooting guards list, and then you have James Harden, who's all the way in the top 10. But at number 25, I'm going to go with the guy who almost had a 50-40-90 season in the regular season. I know he hasn't lived up to what his name was in the playoffs, and that's Chris Middleton, and that's why he's ranked this low. His stock did fall a little bit due to the fact that with Giannis, his playoff production wasn't that great, but without him, like that one game, he skyrocketed. He led the Bucks to the only win against the Heat. So I have to put Chris Middleton at number 5 just based on what he did in the regular season. I think what he did was was exceptional play. So I have to rank him at 25. At number 24, I have to go with my guy Jrue Holiday. Listen, it's probably an unpopular placement for Jrue Holiday. Many people have him much lower than this, but his ability on both ends of the court to score, to pass, to play elite perimeter defense, I think that's just so valuable to what the Pelicans do. And he's been doing that for multiple years. He's done it in the playoffs. I know he wasn't in the playoffs this year, but the last time he was in the playoffs, he absolutely locked Damian Lillard, who's one of the best offensive players in the NBA. So it's not like he's faltered in the playoffs by any means. So I have to rank Jrue Holiday at number 24. At number 23, he would have been much higher, but due to his faltering in the playoffs and the inability to listen, Nikola Jokic is the best offensive center in the NBA. I think we all know this, but we all consider Rudy Gobert the best defensive player as a center in the NBA. That's right. He didn't do a great job on Nikola Jokic. Granted, he is the best offensive center, but you could at least limit him to what your standard is. You could limit him to less than what he did. And so that's why I have to rank Rudy Gobert lower than I would like to, because in the playoffs, he just didn't have that same level of impact or production as he did in the regular season. But this guy is a back-to-back defensive player of the year. He's an absolute menace defensively. The stifle tower, he does it all defensively. His rim protection is A1. So I have to rank Rudy Gobert at number 23. Once again, this is a little bit, actually, no, not yet. At number 22, I have Devin Booker. Listen, Devin Booker is one of the quick and ascending young guards in the NBA. He could score at a high level. His playmaking has gotten much better. His efficiency is my favorite part about him. He scores at such an efficient level. And what he did in the bubble with that Suns team shows that many people haven't been watching him this year. Like, it was such a surprise, but it really wasn't. This dude was an all-star. He was doing this all year with the Phoenix Suns. His supporting cast is underrated. I'll give him that, but that team, no one expected them to go anywhere, and Devin Booker was the main catalyst. His offensive impact was so huge on that team. His scoring value was so huge that they were almost able to eke into the playoffs despite being so youthful. And so I have to rank Devin Booker at 22. I know he's a defensive liability, but what he brings on the offensive end of the court is that valuable to me. At number 21, this is where things get interesting. I have Klay Thompson. Listen, Klay Thompson is an excellent player, but like Thomas attributed to, Klay Thompson can be a little bit overrated. His value as he's not great at creating for himself. A lot of his shots are created by Steph Curry in the motion offense. His efficiency significantly drops without Steph Curry. He's an extremely portable player, but he doesn't have the defensive impact everyone claims. Yes, he's a great defender, but he's also a little bit overrated on that end because people act like he is this all-world perimeter defender when he really isn't. But the reason I'm ranking him ahead of the guys which I mentioned is because he's so valuable to what the Warriors do. Um, his impact as an off-ball player is just exceptional. He's so reliable without the ball. He could cut off screens, move without the ball in his hands, and that's really what makes them so effective. The fact that he doesn't need the ball to score. We know that he could score with only 5 dribbles in a game. He scored 60 points. So that's just the type of player Klay Thompson is. He doesn't need the ball in his hands, and that provides so much to his basketball team because that allows other players to do so much more. But this is interesting. I have to rank his teammate ahead of him, and that's not Steph Curry. That's Draymond Green, and that's going to be a little bit unpopular.
It's a hot
Will
take.
didn't mention Ben Simmons. I think when healthy, I think Draymond Green is literally a better version of Ben Simmons when he's completely healthy. I mean, Ben Simmons is a better playmaker. Granted, he is a better scorer.
And a
Yeah,
rebounder
granted. Even though they're
and
both not the
versatility.
best. They're both not the most versatile scorers, but Draymond Green, when healthy, is a better defender than Ben Simmons to me. Um, just his perimeter defense, his interior defense, even his rim protection. I think people are really forgetting that this year, you can't really look at this year with Draymond Green. I know that seems kind of unfair. That's kind of moving the goalpost. He's a ceiling raiser. We know this. He's a ceiling raiser with Steph Curry. He is one of the most impactful players in the NBA with his defensive value. And I think that's so critical to what the Warriors have done. I think he's actually more valuable than Klay Thompson to that dynasty because of his defensive impact and his ability to be a great offensive play initiator and allow Steph Curry to move effectively on screens and all that. So I think Draymond Green has to be ranked that high just because he's so valuable to what the Warriors do when that entire unit is completely healthy. I think his value on the court is more important than what Klay Thompson brings. I think the team suffers a lot more without Draymond Green than without Klay Thompson because without Klay Thompson, you still have Steph Curry to provide the scoring value that Klay Thompson does. You have other guys. I know I'm not saying Klay is replaceable, but in comparison to Draymond Green, he is not as valuable as a piece in my opinion. And that's why I have to rank Draymond Green ahead of Klay Thompson, and he eats that number 20 spot.
Dang, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even really think of Draymond Green just because, I mean, the season that he had was just such like a
It
watch.
was by the way,
You know,
Draymond, I know you're
the
probably
triple
not going to
single.
watch this, but the season you had was terrible. But I'm not going to be quick to forget what you did in the playoffs in 2019. What you did in the playoffs was exceptional, and it proved that you were worthy of top 20 or top 25 play. And so I believe you should be ranked that high. And when you come back, you better because it makes me look good, but you are going to prove once again that you are a top 20 player in the National Basketball Association.
I will say, when it comes to Draymond Green, like he's probably the prototypical example of like numbers don't really show his true impact. I mean, they never have. Like he's always been averaging what, like 12 points per game, or like 15 points per game,
He's
and
always
like
been
a few assists.
inefficient.
Right, and a few rebounds. And right, he's not even that efficient, but you really just have to watch the game to understand his true impact. And when you do, you understand like he's such an excellent fit with him and Steph Curry. You wouldn't think that's really a great fit, but it honestly is because they can both like pass to you. Like Draymond Green can pass the ball to Steph Curry off his screen, which is
And the
pretty
pick and roll
incredible.
game they run is absolutely
Right,
beautiful.
exactly. Yeah. So that's that's a hot take. I respect it though.
Yeah, in
Oh,
terms of Draymond Green, like you said, he's not the most efficient guy, but you also I bring up his defensive impact. Like when healthy, his defensive impact is one of the best in the NBA. We also have to notice how much of a vocal leader he is in that locker room. I think that also goes a long way. Um, I think just like that little bit, I know Klay Thompson is a better offensive player. I don't think anyone is denying that fact. But what Draymond Green brings on defense, believe, is more valuable than what Klay brings on offense.
yeah, that's
But
fair.
we're gonna. Oh, you guys have any more thoughts?
Oh, I was just gonna give like a couple of snubs that I had. So I would say snubs for me, I guess Jamal Murray. I mean, his playoff run was about as you could say. Maybe it was probably better than Donovan Mitchell just because his team did go farther. Even though he obviously had like Nikola Jokic next to him, so that obviously helped. But still, you could say he had definitely a more long-lasting playoff run in the numbers that he put up. But to me, I still don't think he's better than Devin Booker or Donovan Mitchell or really any of those shooting guards. But we'll see if he can have a sustained regular season of that kind of play. He is definitely going to move up. That's really the next step for him. And then Kyle Lowry, I guess, would be another snub that I had. I think he's top 30. Yeah, I don't have Kyle Lowry.
Wow.
Kyle Lowry is yet to be announced on my list.
Same.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, Kyle Lowry. Yeah, I think I put him at like 26. Yeah, I didn't have Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, in terms of me, I think. Oh wait, Will, did you snub Russell Westbrook? I forgot.
No, Russell Westbrook. I have Russell Westbrook.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, I snubbed Russell Westbrook. Jamal Murray, noticeable snub, even though he played great in the playoffs. I just need to see his longevity throughout the regular season. I mean, what he did in the playoffs, I don't think anyone's ever going to forget that. And it's also the reason why his stock grew so much and why he's even in the top 30. But we need to see him play for an entire regular season before we put him over some of the guys we mentioned, in my opinion, at least. Um, so I have Jamal Murray. Donovan Mitchell is also a noticeable snub on my list. He has a great argument. Both of those guys have a great argument over guys like Chris Middleton, and same with the next snub, which is Bradley Beal. Even Russell Westbrook. They all can be put in. I'm sorry, Will. I'm sorry. But
He's still yet to be heard on my list. That's all I got to say about Bradley Beal.
That's our true Wizards fan right there.
Right. Yeah.
But in terms of those guys, they all have great arguments to be put in the top 20, top 25. And if you guys, I mean, if you want to remove all the players from my top 25 or my top 20 through top 25 and put those guys, which I snubbed, I wouldn't really have a problem with it. All of those guys are great players. So, and they're all in the same tier. So there's not really a big deal there in terms of my opinion. But do you guys have anything to add to your top 20 through top 25?
No, I like the point. Like, honestly, for me, when it comes to ranking players, I like doing tier lists better than like individual rankings, just because it's so hard to like, it's like, why am I putting this player over this player? So tier list, I prefer doing tier lists. But it definitely gets tough.
That's too easy, and we don't like making.
That's true. That's true. It is pretty easy. It's really tough when you get down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah, but with that being said, we're going to transition to our last and final topic of the show, and that's about Jrue Holiday. The title of this episode is called Holiday Hoops 1 because we're getting hoops back in the holidays, and we're going to talk about the trade rumors that have come up with Jrue Holiday and the New Orleans Pelicans. So many contending teams want to trade for Jrue Holiday. The Warriors have been in rumors. The Nuggets have been in rumors. The Heat have been in rumors. The Nets have been in rumors. You could name a lot of teams that have been in rumors for Jrue Holiday. Bottom line is contending teams want him on their roster. So, guys, the question here is not which team do you think can use Jrue. I mean, any team can use a Jrue Holiday. That's such a vague question. Which team do you think has the best odds to get him? And which team do you think must get him? Not which team can use him, because any team can use a Jrue Holiday.
All right. So I think in terms of which team has the best assets to go out and get a Jrue Holiday, I'm going to go with the Miami Heat. Now, I don't know what they want to give up because I personally, I definitely think Jrue Holiday is miles ahead of Tyler Hero right now, but I'm not going to put a cap on Tyler Hero's potential, and I do not think you should trade Tyler Hero for him. But if the Miami Heat really want him, if they see, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Duncan Robinson, and they see all those guys and they say, hey, we want to keep this going. We want to go back for another title run. They can get Jrue Holiday. But in terms of the team that needs him the most, I don't see how it's got to be Brooklyn. It's got to be Brooklyn. Pairing Jrue Holiday up with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant is just absolutely perfect. Jrue is a guy that really doesn't need the ball. He can spot up off the ball, but he's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. And you're going to need a guy like that next to Kyrie Irving, who is a noticeably poor defender. And yeah, I mean, it makes sense that all these contenders are asking for Jrue Holiday. I mean, like you said, he can fit anywhere. And the reason so many teams are asking for him is because he's so good. And I also think that the Warriors, if the Warriors were willing to do the number 2 pick for Jrue Holiday, that's pretty enticing. Bring LaMelo and Lonzo to the Pelicans.
I mean, what if the Wolves take LaMelo before that happens? Then it'll ruin all of our dreams.
Yeah, it'll ruin all the fun. I'll hate the Timberwolves
You
forever.
already know LeVar Ball is going to have the best boxing match with Air if that happens.
Pairing LaMelo Ball and Lonzo Ball that would just be the best way to end 2020. Like that's what I'm rooting for now, to pair LaMelo Ball and Lonzo Ball in New Orleans.
I would watch every game they played.
Yeah.
That is
Zion
insane.
would average almost 40 with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll give my quick thoughts on Jrue Holiday. To me, he's really the perfect missing piece that you could have on a championship contending team. Just because of the situation that he's in. Obviously, he's not on like a championship team. He's on a team that has great future assets. But when it comes to what that team is looking for, a championship, later in the 2020s, Jrue Holiday, he's going to be in his mid-30s by then. So obviously, trading him makes sense for both sides if a deal were to happen. I mean, in my opinion, I think he's probably the best perimeter defender in the league, and he obviously is excellent off ball, and he's still effective as an off ball player. I mean, he can get you 20 and 7. That's pretty valuable, and with his defense. So yeah, I would agree with what Thomas said when it comes to the Nets. I've been saying it for the longest time. Jrue Holiday and the Nets, and I also think that would work for the Warriors, just because I've always thought Klay Thompson could switch to the 3. He could honestly go to small forward and he would still be okay. Just because, I mean, he can guard wings, and he shoots the 3 extremely well. So I mean, his game, I think he'd be fine moving to the 3, because obviously if the Warriors were to get Jrue Holiday would be the shooting guard. So then Klay Thompson would have to move to the 3. But I think based on his play style and the type of game and the skill set that he offers, I don't see any reason why that wouldn't work. So I think it would be perfectly fine if the Warriors did that. Other teams, obviously, I mean, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Bucks, they would also all those teams would love to get Jrue Holiday, but they don't have any of the assets. I mean, all they have is picks that aren't going to be very high because they're all championship contending teams, and like a Landry Shamet or a Dante DiVincenzo, but that's not as enticing as what the Miami Heat or the Brooklyn Nets or the Golden State Warriors could offer, because they actually have valuable draft picks and more valuable assets than what the Clippers, Lakers, or Bucks have. When it comes to the Miami Heat, I don't think the Miami Heat should do it, just because I don't think that they should give up some of those pieces that helped them get that far. And they were such a surprise team, and I really think that you should be building around those pieces, especially if they're interested in Giannis. Because to me, if they sign Giannis, there's no way you would want to trade any of those pieces away, just because Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson are perfect fits for a guy like Giannis. So you have to keep those kind of pieces. Miami Heat, I don't see them giving Jrue Holiday. I think if he went to the Nets, that would be perfect. I think it makes sense for both sides. Warriors, I could also see that happening. So yeah, those would be my 2 teams.
Before Pranav gets in, I'm going to say 2 dark horse teams that I think could get him. One's going to be the Pacers. Just try and pair all the Holiday brothers together, and the Atlanta Hawks. Those would be my 2 dark horse teams to get. I know. I keep
your Hawks, don't you? You really love your Hawks.
I keep bringing up the Hawks, and it's completely no, I'm not trying to do it on purpose, I swear.
So, in terms of the 2 teams that must get Jrue Holiday, it's pretty obvious to me. It's the Dallas Mavericks and the Denver Nuggets. However, we have to be realistic. What do the Dallas Mavericks have to offer the New Orleans Pelicans to get Jrue Holiday? You're not going to trade Luka or KP. Those are untouchables. Other than that, though, they don't really have much value. Their draft picks are pretty they're pretty low. Their first round picks are pretty low. So keep in mind the Dallas Mavericks don't really have that much value to go out and get a Jrue, even if they would want to. He obviously fits on their team. They're the 18th ranked defense. Their defense is not good, despite their offense being exceptional. So that's it. One team. The Denver Nuggets have pieces. They're not whether they're willing to part ways with Michael Porter Jr. I'm not sure. I don't believe they will. But they could also use Jrue Holiday. Any team could use him, but they need Jrue Holiday. They were below average defense as well. And it showed in the playoffs. Their defense was their Achilles heel. And even when they were neutralized by the Lakers, they weren't able to do the same back. When the Lakers were on the other end of the court, driving up and down the court, they weren't able to defend them at a high level. So the Denver Nuggets popped to mind. But the two teams that have the most realistic offers to me is the Brooklyn Nets and the Golden State Warriors. Brooklyn Nets actually had a surprisingly decent defense last year. They were top 10. I think that could be a little bit over exaggerated. I don't actually believe they're a top 10 defense. I think they need significant help on the perimeter defense. I'm not the biggest Karis LeVert guy, but if New Orleans was able to get a pick, Karis LeVert, and possibly another asset or two for Jrue Holiday, I think that would be able to work out. But the Pelicans should absolutely try to get the number 2 pick from Golden State and try to pair LaMelo Lonzo. I mean, that's for the culture. But in terms of Golden State, what Jrue Holiday will do for that team is you move Clay down to small forward, like Will suggested. Both of them can guard wings at a high level. Um, you could get a center through free agency like a Serge Ibaka. You don't need to draft James Wiseman. If all you need is a rim protecting big, you go get a Serge Ibaka. He does a lot of those same things. You can go sign guys off the bench like a Kent Bazemore, who could really provide value to an NBA team. I think the Golden State Warriors are in a position with the number 2 pick. I don't see Wiggins as a valuable piece, but with Wiggins, I guess, and guys like Pascal, Poole, you can add another first round pick. I think they're in a prime position to get a guy like Jrue Holiday if they want to, and maybe even get a throw in like a Jackson Hayes and a deal like that.
Yeah, I
But
like that.
go ahead, Will.
No, I was just saying, yeah, I like that. I mean, if LaMelo and Lonzo were on the same team, hey, sign LiAngelo Ball to the practice or to the not practice squad to the G League team,
Last
and there
I
you
checked,
go.
he was on the Thunder G League. He's staying in OKC.
Yeah, we
Trade
want
for LiAngelo Ball.
We want a generational talent.
we're gonna trade it for LaMelo, and then we're gonna trade for Lonzo, and we're gonna get all the Ball brothers.
Okay, master plan.
Lamar would be ecstatic. But thank you guys, whoever tuned in. Thank you for tuning in. This was really fun. As always, make sure to tune in next Friday. Download our mobile app. We're going to be pushing a lot of NBA draft content in these next couple of weeks. We might even have a couple shows a week heading into draft week and draft day. So make sure you guys stay tuned in. When there's only one way, the right way. Thank you guys.
Facts.